Hey everybody, Bryan Zane here with my review of Fastlane 2019, and in case you can't tell, the background looks a little bit different than usual. I'm reporting to you from my brand new digs. This new studio slash office space has been in the works for well over a month now, and it's finally completed. I'm just getting the finishing touches done with moving in. Still a lot of changes to be made. You might see some changes in the background in the weeks to come, but this is the new spot. I'm really excited for it. It's actually right here at my house. I don't even have to go anywhere. This is great, and I'm really excited about this new space. I can't stop just looking at this area. You'll be seeing some behind-the-scenes footage in the weeks to come of the making of this space. I look forward to showing you that in the future, but let's get right into the show right now. The kickoff match was NAKAMUSEV taking on the New Day of Xavier Woods and Big E. This right off the bat was a great match, great way to open this show. I love this double team that Xavier and Big E have here. Uranagi in the corner into a backstabber. It's been done before, but it always makes me pop every time I see it. Lana is used very sparingly here. She gets one distraction in, and she does kind of like tongue wag thing after, kind of like teasing, the New Day after doing it. There's a brief moment where Nakamura forgets his cue at one point. You can see Big E kind of beckon him with his hands, and also Rusev kind of like shoves him by the ass to try and get in his spot. There's this one bump that Xavier takes near the end that like hurt my soul watching it. He's like power bombed by Shinsuke and Rusev onto the floor, and how that was not the finish, I have no idea, because it looks like such a stiff bump. Eventually, the New Day win with the up, up, down, down. This was a terrific opener. I give it 3 stars out of 4. Like I've said before, the kickoff matches don't count toward my overall grade, but it's worth rating here. This was a great match. In fact, when it was all over, I was actually kind of nervous that this would overshadow the very next match. It was the Smackdown tag title match as the Usos defend against McMahon, but much to my delight, that was not the case. This match actually stood on its own in a big way. The match opens up, you got, The Miz, of course, is the hometown boy, newly turned face Miz coming back to Cleveland. He takes off the Shane jersey he has to reveal his special, region-specific Miz shirt that gets a big pop. Then he buttons the shirt back up, which that was pretty funny. Corey makes a very choice Talladega Nights reference on commentary when talking about The Miz and his relationship with his dad. I love that movie, and it's just so out there. But of course, who better than Corey Graves to make a Talladega Nights reference? There's a heart attack by the McMahon team at one point in the match. Is it just me, or have they been doing that spot a lot more lately after Jim the Animal Neidhart died? I feel like I never saw it on TV before, and now I'm seeing it almost on a weekly basis since Neidhart died. The Usos are definitely working heel here. They're getting a lot of heat on Shane. He's the one who's taking a lot of the brunt of the beating here. He looks pretty good here, though, in his moments to shine. I've said it before. For all the talk we have about him being a part-time wrestler, not being full-time, he holds his own pretty well here in this matchup. Miz with a hot tag after lots of struggling. So big pop for the Miz when he gets tagged in. He removes the jersey again, for real this time. Big cross body to the outside, right in front of Mr. Miz, who is at ringside here. Shane's hit with a double team, and the referee checks on him as the Miz tries to score the pinfall. We get a 2 count. We get a bit of a Mexican standoff here because Shane's on the corner getting ready to do the coast to coast, while one of the Usos on the opposite corner threatening to splash the Miz. And so eventually Shane just jumps, the Uso jumps, and they collide midair. I've never seen that before. That was so cool. The Miz is pumped up. He goes for a frog splash, but the Uso, I can't tell them apart. The Uso on the ground puts his knees up, roll up, and the Usos retain. I give this one 3 stars as well. This match definitely exceeded my expectations. I think it was actually an improvement over what these guys did the previous month. The crowd was hot. The story was there. Miz trying to impress his dad, going outside of his, outside of his element to try and secure the big win, ultimately falling short. But yeah, this is a great match. Then after the match, we had this kind of emotional moment where the Miz and Shane are kind of like consoling each other. They go over to Mr. Miz, they raise each other's hands and stuff. Very sweet moment. Then as they're walking away, Shane with the swerve, and he decks Miz from behind and just beats the hell out of him. It's one of the most vicious beatdowns I've ever seen from Shane McMahon or on the Miz. It was very weird to see this kind of role reversal here of Shane just being the uber heel, beating the shit out of the Miz. And then what do we get? We get shots of Mr. Miz, who you'd think would, he's got a son who's a Hollywood actor, or at least is booked as one. You'll have to believe he's one. So could he have not glommed some of that acting experience from the Miz? Could Miz not have taught his dad how to better emote when his son is getting viciously beaten literally like 10 feet away from him?
She's a stunt.
Grandpa. The much rumored Shane McMahon heel turn that's been talked about ever since Crown Jewel when he won that tournament has finally happened. I think the timing is great. I think it works. Like, as weird as it is to see babyface Miz in a vulnerable position getting beat down by Shane McMahon, it just works here. Like Shane, I mean, I'm guessing he's snapping because, oh, you cost me my dream of being a tag team champion, even though we did it, but now we've lost, and so I'm mad at you now. Like, it, you know, I'm really curious about this. I think it's definitely the first time Shane's been a heel since he's made his comeback into the company, I think about 3 or 4 years ago, which means this is like the first time in ages he's been a heel. We get a Shield-like promo from Team Baddies backstage. Then we go to Elias in the ring. And so it's the first of what will be many times we see him on this night. He basically plays the role of kind of expository narrator after certain points in the show, just to basically recap to you what just happened. And so he makes fun of the Miz, makes fun of Cleveland. That's an ongoing thing tonight too with him. Then we go to the Smackdown Women's Championship match as Asuka defends against Mandy Rose. This match, again, kind of like the Usos McMahon match, this one really exceeded my expectations in a different way. I mean, I know Mandy's good. She's a good wrestler. And Asuka, of course, is Asuka. We all know her pedigree and everything. But this was like a surprisingly competitive back and forth match. I think Mandy looks really good here for the most part. That they're exchanging submissions and stuff and strikes. Looking pretty strong here. This is probably the strongest I've seen Mandy look in a long time. And then at one point, Sonya is looking for some under the ring. It's kind of this awkward moment where I think she might have jumped the gun. But she's like looking under the ring. And then Corey says, maybe she's looking for rats or turtles. I'm like, Corey, this is Cleveland, not New York. Good facial expressions by Mandy here. Not just the in-ring stuff, the physicality she's doing, but also just her facial expressions and her body language as Asuka keeps kicking out of her offense. Like, she can't believe it. She's getting desperate. Sonya, again, looks under the apron. This time she grabs a kendo stick from below the ring. The apron skirt is still like partly on the actual edge of the ring. Mandy is supposed to slip on it. When I first saw it, I thought she legitimately slipped like on accident and stuff. But I think that was more intentional the more you play it back, because she really didn't slip on it that much on playback. But after that confusion, she gets a kick from Asuka. Asuka wins and retains. And so now you get this kind of tiff between Fire and Desire. I give it 2 stars out of 4. Like I said, a surprisingly competitive matchup. Although I thought the finish was very curious. Essentially, Asuka wins with an assist from Sonya Deville after she inadvertently cost Mandy the match. All that did was remind me of TLC back in December when Ronda Rousey screwed over Becky and Charlotte, and that caused Asuka to win the championship. So it wasn't like something where she was in cahoots with somebody or somebody cheated on her behalf. It was like some other thing going on, and she just happens to benefit from it. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but for someone who's supposed to be this like dominant fighter, she's like, I don't think Asuka's ever been portrayed before as like an opportunist. She's always been kind of scrappy and she has good heart and like fighting spirit and all that stuff. But this is like stuff where she's kind of capitalizing on other people's mistakes, and I don't think that's ever really been her style. And so it's just it's just more of this kind of underwhelming title reign we're seeing so far with Asuka. I mean, great to see her win, thank God, but it's just more of this thing where the only real convincing win she's had so far in what is now, I think, a 4-month reign, is going on 4 months at least, is that match with Becky Lynch at the Rumble, and that was pretty much it. Backstage, the New Day enter Mr. McMahon's office and demand that Kofi get his championship match. Make it a triple threat, Vince. Just make it happen. So Vince says, okay, pal, it's a triple threat. You better get out there because that match is happening right now. Or is it? So Kofi makes his way out there thinking it's the championship match, but ooh, a dastardly trick by Mr. McMahon, as it turns out it's a handicap match where Kofi takes on The Bar by himself, and there's no tag format. The Bar's just in there at the same time. So Cesaro and Sheamus beat the hell out of Kofi. Kofi gets like a moment or two to shine, but it's all for naught. We get a "this is boring" chant, and the timing's perfect because we get this chant, and it's right around the time Cesaro goes for a cover and then pulls him up for more heel action. So that's a great way to counter that chant there. Xavier Woods and Big E, who were barred from ringside, just make their way out anyway to try to save their friend, but NAKAMUSEV cut them off. Double white noise by The Bar, and they win this match here. I'm going to give it a half star out of 4. I mean, as a match, nothing at all really speak of. As a story, it's just more like the insurmountable odds that Mr. McMahon is, for whatever reason, piling on Kofi Kingston as he makes his way toward that, that WrestleMania matchup that we're probably going to get there. I mean, I keep saying probably. It's going to happen. I keep saying it's probably going to happen, but I say probably because you don't really know for sure. Be that as it may, I think the story of Kofi getting suppressed here by Vince and getting tricked, like it's a good little wrinkle in the story. We get some more alliance exposition, then a backstage interview where Shane McMahon's asked why he did what he did against The Miz. He just quietly shakes his head and walks away, and that's the end of that. We then go to the Raw Tag Team Championship triple threat match as the Revival defend against Ruble and Ricochet. Uncle Rico's taking all the heat here as Ruble and the Revival keep getting time in the ring. Aleister Black is the odd man out for the bulk of this match. He gets the hot tag, hits a bunch of guys. We get a beautiful bridging German by Gable, followed immediately by Dash Wilder with a big splash onto Chad, followed up by Ricochet with the shooting star. Ricochet goes for a Hurricane Rana onto Dawson to the outside. He doesn't quite get Dawson doesn't quite get the leap I think he needed here, because he just comes crashing down onto the apron pretty hard before hitting everyone else, so everyone goes down. Gable with a blind tag as Ricochet hurls himself out of the corner and onto somebody else. Gable and Dawson exchange some near falls. Shatter Machine by the Revival, and the Revival retain. We get a big post-match schmoz that sees Ricochet standing tall, but that's pretty much it. 2.5 stars out of 4 is my rating here. The match didn't really pick up steam until like the halfway point, and then it got very good. I think it was good to see the Revival finally get a win for a change the last few weeks. So originally there was a pre-show match scheduled between Rey Mysterio and Andrade, and then that got morphed into this 4-way match happening on the main show for the US Championship as Samoa Joe makes his first title defense against Rey, Andrade, and R-Truth. Joe gets things started the right way with a big dive to the outside on all 3 of his opponents. Rey with a double Hurricane Rana on Truth and Andrade, and he's just all over the place in this matchup. I mean, he has too many wild spots in this match for me to call. I mean, good Lord, how good is Rey Mysterio these days? We get some more of Andrade doing his little Eddie Guerrero tributes to mock Rey in this way. I wish that we got more explanation from this besides the announce team, because they're the ones who are going, oh, he's trying to get in the head of Rey Mysterio, this and that. I'm like, couldn't we get a promo from Andrade or Zelina Vega to explain why he's doing this? Just get more of his perspective, or get Rey to do a promo explaining why he doesn't like what Andrade's doing. Either it's happening on YouTube or pre-shows, I'm just missing it, or we're not getting it at all. On the outside, Zelina Vega gets involved, but unlike last week, she gets her comeuppance here as Carmella fights back. Andrade and Truth are taken out of the picture. Rey hits the 619 on Joe, goes for the splash, but Joe moves and just yanks him by the waistband of his tights and grabs him, puts him in the coquina clutch. Rey is out and the referee calls it. Joe retains. I give it 3.5 stars out of 4. Damn near perfect match. And I think that this one, if you liked what these 4 guys did on Smackdown last week where Joe won the championship, I think you're going to love this match, because they actually were able to excel and exceed what they did on Tuesday. Everyone looked really good here, and by this point in the show, this is the match of the night on a show where there are a lot of really strong matches. Sasha Banks and Bayley make their first women's tag title defense against Nia Jax and Tamina. Over the weekend, I was actually corrected by a few people when I referred to Nia and Tamina as the Samoan Slaughterhouse. A lot of people said, hey Bryan, that's just what they were calling the Elimination Chamber when they were in that chamber match a month ago. Be that as it may, I still like that as a team name, and I'm going to call them that from here on out. Anyway, Beth Phoenix, who's the company's resident female expert, is at ringside doing commentary as kind of a guest spot for this matchup here. Nia hits Bayley with a powerbomb that would knock her dick stiff if she had one. They try and go for a double Samoan drop, like a toss-up and a catch onto Sasha Banks, but it doesn't quite work out. It's worked before, it didn't work here. Nice job trying to recover, though. Sasha dives onto Nia and Tamina. Nia catches her, but Tamina falls. Kind of an ongoing thing here with this matchup here. Bayley with a big dive onto everyone. Bayley counters the powerbomb with a Hurricane Rana and a pin. Bayley and Sasha retain, but immediately afterward, Nia and Tamina get their heat back by beating up the winners, hurling Sasha over the announce table. After some awkward blocking, Beth Phoenix walks right into Tamina. They have a bit of a face-off, and then Beth strikes first, but Nia is just right on top of that. And so the two heels beat down the Hall of Famer. Natalya, the former tag team partner of Beth Phoenix, as part of Pinup Strong, tries to make the save, but ultimately she gets got as well. And that's pretty much how that bit ends. I'm giving this one star out of 4. Definitely a big come down from the previous matchup here. That's a tough one to follow, so I don't envy these women. But there were just one too many botches in this matchup, like flagrant botches, for me to really kind of get beyond that point. So 1 star, I think, is my score for this. I'm very curious to see where they're going to go with this, with the beatdown of Beth Phoenix and Natalya. I don't think they would do this for nothing. I mean, obviously they want to give heat to the Samoan Slaughterhouse, and yes, I'm going to refer to them as that. But, is this going to lead to a match? Will we see Pinup Strong reunite at WrestleMania against the Samoan Slaughterhouse? Sure, why not? So despite Kofi getting shit canned by the Bar earlier in the night as a result of a ruse by Mr. McMahon, it turns out that what he said about it being a triple threat match for the WWE Championship is still happening. So we've got Daniel Bryan defending against Kevin Owens and, drumroll please, Mustafa Ali making his big return, his first official match back since being out of action with injury. What an interesting journey this particular match has taken in terms of booking in the last 3 weeks. We had Daniel versus Kofi, Daniel versus Kevin. Now we got Daniel, Kevin, Mustafa Ali. Mustafa is in a very unenviable spot here because, he's a big fan favorite. He usually gets reactions, big reactions. But this one, he got kind of muted response from the fans. Like, they wanted Kofi, and they made you know that. They made it very clear that the entire match, how they were chanting, "We want Kofi," chanting his name and stuff. So, Mustafa normally gets big pops, but not on this night. Ali is dumped out of the ring by a flying Daniel Bryan knee. He lands hard on the outside. Daniel with his kicks in the corner and some tremendous selling by Kevin Owens.
Daniel Bryan dodged the curveball in the fact that it's Mustafa Ali. Daniel.
I'll give these guys all the credit in the world. They did their damnedest trying to make the fans forget that Kofi Kingston was not in this match. Big top rope Spanish fly by Mustafa onto Daniel. Goes for an 054 onto Owens, but he misses. Kevin with the stunner. Bryan breaks up the pinfall. Daniel goes for the knee. Kevin catches him with a pop-up powerbomb. There's a kick out. Onto the apron, Mustafa with a 450 splash from the top rope onto the apron on Daniel Bryan. Man, that looked snug. Roode gets involved. He takes some super kicks from Ali and Kevin Owens for his troubles. KO with a plancha to Roode on the outside, and he is just inches away from getting decapitated by the announce table, the front edge of the announce table, as he's making his way down. That looked scary as hell, and I wonder just how close he really was. Maybe the camera angle intensified it or amplified that perspective a little bit, but man, it looked scary close. Ali with a tornado DDT to the outside on Daniel. Kevin with a pop-up powerbomb on Ali on the apron, but Rowan removes him from the equation. After all this, after Ali is powerbombed to the apron and all this stuff we've just seen, and he kicks out, we still get "We want Kofi" chants from the audience? Fuck you. This is a great match. Why you still want Kofi? Daniel slaps Mustafa a few times. Ali gets some fire. He bounces off the corner and he eats a knee on the way down. The night of crazy midair collisions here. Daniel wins and retains the championship. They put a little extra mustard on Ali with a big palm slam by Rowan. I give this one 3.5 stars out of 4. I was this close to giving it 4, but ultimately I just decided to go with the conservative pick and go 3.5 stars with this one. We didn't get Kofi Kingston. The fans clearly wanted Kofi in this matchup. And, like I said, these guys did everything they could to try to make you forget that Kofi Kingston was not in this matchup. I cannot believe the fans are still chanting for Kofi after all the stuff we saw in the build-up to the finish. But, this was a really fun match. It's now time for Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair, and if Becky wins, she's added to the Raw Women's Championship match at WrestleMania, making it a triple threat. And of course, the story here is Becky is on one leg. Charlotte's mocking her the entire time. She's just kind of toying with her for a while. Charlotte works the leg a lot. Becky with some signs of life, one of which is a kick that she very much whiffs. Charlotte goes up top. Becky shoves her onto the floor. We get a 7 count or so before Charlotte gets back in the ring. Becky goes for the disarm her. Charlotte fights out of it, goes to the figure 4, and she's got her locked in. Ronda Rousey runs down and she punches Becky Lynch, and the referee calls DQ in favor of Becky. So Becky wins. There's your conquering hero. The last kicker, the man, Becky Lynch, getting disqualified, backing her way into the main event at WrestleMania. Corey Graves with a hell of a call.
Ronda writing the rules as she goes. Writing the story.
What story? How I lost the WWE Women's Championship at WrestleMania?
Hey,
this is
Becky
dumb.
Lynch.
I can understand Ronda, doing this because she wants a piece of both Becky and Charlotte in here. She still has a grudge with Becky, and she wants to get her involved so she can teach her a lesson. But if you hate her so much, why don't you just keep her out of the match? Why don't you hit Charlotte so Becky's DQ? I don't know. It makes her look really stupid because they lay this out perfectly well in commentary. It doesn't look good for Ronda because she just basically decreased her odds of retaining the championship at WrestleMania. Oh well, I gave it a half star. Not much of a match with a finish that technically does protect both Charlotte and Becky. Charlotte would look bad if she lost clean to a one-legged Becky Lynch. And Becky in this way is kind of, she kind of outsmarts Charlotte, I guess, or gets into the head of Ronda so much that she, is basically assaulted into getting in the main event. But man, it's I don't know how else they could have really booked this to make it satisfying and really protect everybody. We get Elias one more time, and he says, boy, no one's cut me off tonight. That's really cool. And then sure enough, he's interrupted by the SSB, the Super Smash Blonde, Lacey Evans, and she comes and goes. Then all of a sudden, Randy Orton pops out of nowhere with an RKO. He celebrates for about a second before AJ Styles hits the Phenomenal Forearm out of nowhere to continue their little rivalry they got going on SmackDown the last couple weeks. All I could think was, holy crap, how much stuff are they going to try and cram into this show? There's a lot of stuff going on here tonight. Main event time. It's being billed as the Shield's last ride, with Dean Ambrose on his way out the door as they're taking on Team Baddies. That's Baron Corbin, Bobby Lashley, and Drew McIntyre. You know, Ross on Cultaholic referred to them as the three-man bland, and I like that one, but I'm just going with Team Baddies because it really just encapsulates the genericness of this whole fucking enterprise. You know, I will say, it's like, I think that the Shield reunion, I like it in theory, but it's just, and this one, the first half of this match just did not click with me at all, because to me it feels this particular reunion is kind of uninspired, kind of thrown together last minute, which it was, and also they're going against, you know, this complete most uninspiring group of heels I've ever seen at one time. Like I said, I'm big on Drew McIntyre, and I think that in the right circumstances, Bobby Lashley's great. Baron Corbin, I'm kind of take him or leave him, but when they're all together like this, I think it doesn't help any of them. It just brings them all down into this like grayish green pea soup level of mediocrity. We get a hot tag to Roman Reigns and the crowd pops huge for it. After that point, the match really picks up and we get kind of the greatest hits with the Shield. While Roman and Corbin are fighting in the ring, we get a big old brawl in the crowd between Seth and Dean and Drew and Lashley near the network kickoff show desk. Seth with a big old dive off the stands onto the baddies. Everyone gets back to the ring area. Corbin hits End of Days on Reigns, but Dean and Seth make the last second save. We gather around the announce tables. Somebody save Michael Cole's lozenges. Rollins with a stomp on Lashley on the table. Roman with a spear on Corbin on the outside. It's shaky cam time. Triple powerbomb on Drew through the Spanish announce table. The Shields surround Corbin in the ring. They all hit their finishes. Seth goes, one last motherfucking time. Triple powerbomb onto Corbin. The Shield win. Was there ever any doubt? It was a pretty standard Shield reunion match. I feel it was kind of like, you know, it's interesting now because this is meant to be like, you know, it's the reunion of a super group, because look at all three of these guys and how well they've done for themselves since they've gone their separate ways, and now they're back together and they're going to be more powerful than ever. I think they've gotten so, you know, they've each evolved and grown in their own really interesting ways, and they've all become great performers in their own right as singles guys. So when they come back here in this group, it does seem kind of like a demotion almost, like they're kind of being held back, in my opinion. So when they come back together like this, it's like, I hate to say it, but I like these guys better as singles competitors than I do when they reunite, because I think a lot of what makes these guys cool and unique now as singles guys really gets taken down a notch. My final grade for Fastlane 2019 is a solid B grade. I think a lot of fans and observers kind of went into this show kind of folding their arms, not expecting much, because, you know, there was nothing to give off the impression that any championships were going to change hands. There was only one huge storyline thing happening where Shane turned on The Miz. But even though, if you ignore the storytelling aspect, there was a lot of just so good in-ring stuff on this show. You know, Miz versus the Usos was a treat. The Raw Tag Team title match is a lot of fun. The Fatal 4-Way for the U.S. Championship. The match with Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens, and Mustafa Ali. Great stuff. And, you know, even though it wasn't the best match in the world, I think especially the second half of Shield versus Baddies was as good as advertised. I think once they got into that kind of greatest hits mode, they were able to really shine and get the fans popping for that. The only things I didn't like about the show were the women's tag title match and Becky versus Charlotte, mostly just because of just the booking is so, they've really painted themselves in the corner with Becky and Charlotte, and now it's going to take so much for them to dig themselves out of that hole in terms of how weird the booking has gotten from week to week. You know, who knows what's going to happen here, but it didn't make Becky look very strong here to kind of like win by DQ, and she's like, yeah, I'm going to WrestleMania, how about that? Also, this is not really, I don't know how much I can really count this against the grade, because the matches themselves were good, but man, this show felt like a 4-hour, maybe even more show. Like this one dragged a bit for me. It had so much stuff going on here. I like the fact they had like some variety. They broke it up with like interviews and stuff with Elias and these little things happening here and there. Like it wasn't just match, 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 match. Then that would have gotten kind of boring to me. I think that it's kind of a weird place for me because felt super long. They made good use of the time, but I was tired by the end. Let me know what you thought about Fastlane in the comment section below, and be sure to give it a letter grade in the gimmick in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com, and check out Patreon.com/WrestlingWithRegret for exclusive perks and bonus content. I'm Bryan Zane, and I'll see you next time.
Now here's the secret. She's a stunt granny, and every night she puts on her pads and takes a fall. The two guys behind her are also plants who keep her from getting hurt.